Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Duckpin TV's presentation of the 89th Annual Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Duckpin Classic. We are coming to you today from Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut, and I'm joined by Jim Kaufman, who's going to commentate and call some play-by-play for the second block of Shift 1 of this year's tournament. Good morning, Jim.
Morning, Pat. And we are following the leaders up to this point in the tournament. It's the first weekend of competition. And what you're seeing on the screen now, we're following Bernie Hipkins and John Blaze, who are among the leaders and just happen to be bowling on the same pair. So we're going to be focusing on them to start. You should see their scores on the screen. Bernie came out with the first game this morning with a 177 game. So we're picking this up in game 2 of their second block. It's a 12-game competition. They've already bowled 6 games earlier in the weekend, and now this is essentially their 8th game out of 12, what we're watching now. So Bernie in his first game this morning had a 177, still on fire. He's got 143 plus in the 8th. John Blaze, 91 in the 7th, after having 160 his first game. So these two are pulling away from the rest of the pack. They were already up towards the top, and now they're pulling away even further. So we'll be focusing primarily on those two, along with Eric Pellet.
Yes, Jim, and just so the viewers, I'm sure anyone that's familiar with the game and familiar with this tournament, if you pay attention to the Open Division top 12, you can also see the name Zekas there sitting in second place. Really want to focus, as this moves along during the course of today, we're going to want to focus on the average score, because that's really going to tell you where the bowlers are in reference to Zekas. Right now, Hipkins is showing a third place 149 average, but that's about to change drastically. Same thing with Johnny Blaze, who's struggling a bit this game, but he's still got 3 boxes left to do some damage. Johnny Blaze is the average leader right now at 153.6, but Zekas, as you can see, sitting there getting ready to bowl this afternoon in the following shift, is sitting at a nice 151 average. So that'll be interesting to watch that as the day unfolds.
Absolutely. And if you're trying to figure out what's the good number, what's the good average, what's it going to take to win the tournament, we always want to start with a 150 average. That's kind of like the beginning benchmark. So after 12 games, that would give you a total of 1,800, and usually it's higher than that. But in your head as a bowler, you're looking for at least a 150 average, and then anything you can get on top of that is what's going to put you over the top. So
yeah, exactly. It's been actually, we were talking about this off camera earlier. It's been 10 years since there's been a 1900. Back to 2009, Brian Stiles rolled a 1932, and 3 years prior to that, Dennis Cabral in 2006 had an outstanding series of 1981. But it's been since 2009 that anyone's broken the 1800 barrier and get to that 1900 figure. But 1800 is definitely a minimum as far as when you look at the past results. You're not winning this thing under 1800.
We just caught a replay of, I believe that was Bernie Hipkins' first ball. Unfortunately, it was a split, 4-5-7.
He hasn't seen many of those today, but he's in a pretty good position in this game to afford one of those. He's still looking at a game in the 170s with another mark.
And gave it a great effort to try and convert. Slid the 5 into the 7, but couldn't get it off the wall to take out the 6. So he's sitting at 159 with a frame to go. So you'll see John Blaze 153.6 average through his first 7 games. If you extrapolate that over 12, that would give him a total of about 1843, which is less than what the winning score was last year from John D'Antonis. But like you said, once Bernie Hipkins' score for the 8th game is added, we might see him jump above that.
I believe that is almost destined to happen, unless Johnny throws a double coming out. Always that possibility. He throws a great ball.
So this is a big spot for John Blaze here, 101 after 8. Like you said, a double or multiple strikes here would be a big help, but he needs to throw the first one first. Let's see what happens. Off the side for the Four Horsemen. Makeable shot. Don't want to say that he has to have it, but you don't want to be falling behind pace. Definitely want to at least mark out to get somewhere close to 140. It's not 150, but... Oh, and he blows right by it on the left. That was an opportunity missed there.
Well, when you go 9:15 for 6, you come out of the gates 166. You got a little bit of room for error.
Right.
If he marks out of this game and gets into the 30s, he can just about get to 30 without a double. So he'll probably limp to the next pair and hopefully bounce back after a game like that.
Right. And like we say all the time, every year in and year out, it's a long tournament.
Oh yeah.
And you still have room to make up for bad games, bad frames. Eric Pellet in his first block had a flat 100 game. Followed it up with, I think, somewhere around 350 or 360 his next 2 games to get him up into the 890s. So you do have time to make up for those bad games, but as we get closer to the end of the 12 games, those opportunities
right.
dry
Well,
up.
you start clicking off boxes when you're bowling in a 5-game tournament. I think I start to think about it midway through the 3rd game. Start thinking run out of opportunities. You always think one big game gets me right back in it. Once you get to the 3rd and 4th game, that all of a sudden becomes a lot less likely. In a 12-game tournament, you've got a lot of room for you can have a couple of, I'd say, short stretches where you're off a little bit, and then you get right back on it. You throw a double or better, and you put yourself right back in it mentally and average-wise. So.
And speaking of right back in it, here's a replay of Bernie Hipkins converting the 3-6 for a spare in the 10th. He went off the side and left the 3-6.
There he is. He's going to have back-to-back games in the 70s. That's a heck of a way to start a day.
179.
So that's a 356, I believe, for 2.
356 clip for his first 2. And
That will vault him right up into the top of the leaderboard for sure. He catches the 5-pin right off the front. So Blaze went into this game with a 31-pin advantage. He's clearly, if he goes 29, he's still going to be slightly behind, but he's not by any means out of it. He's still certainly in the running. And he's got to think Hipkins is not going to keep throwing games in the 170s. It's just
right.
Although you just never know.
So after that 177, 179 start, Bernie Hipkins, I believe, is at 1223 for his first 8.
Right. And you'll see him jump ahead of Zekas on average. And, of course, Blaze's score has not been updated yet. That's going to drop. So, as expected, Hipkins should, for the time being, move into the number 1 spot on the leaderboard.
Right. Just about a matter of by how much.
It's not going to be a lot, depending on what Johnny does.
Well, here he is in the 10th. Wants to keep pace with Bernie, his pair mate here, as much as possible. And gets the 7 to trip.
That's a huge shot right there. It's
Absolutely.
A big shot.
Yeah, wanting to keep up with your competition as much as possible. He knows he's not going to be able to catch him all the way this game, but that's going to give him a chance for an extra 10 or 20
again,
pins
you give him
here.
that. He's got 19 plus. You give him the 31. He's at 50. He's only 20 less than 20 pins behind overall, and that's against someone that's just gone two high 70s in a row.
Right.
That's pretty good.
We also have a nice diversity as far as the bowlers at the top of the leaderboard so far. We have John Blaze from Massachusetts. Converts that for a 129 finish. And Bernie Hipkins, Duckpin bowler from Maryland. Eric Pellet, who hasn't been on screen yet, from Connecticut. So we got
a covering the gamut.
Almost the full geography of duckpin bowling with just those 3 bowlers.
And with Johnny Blaze, you're talking about a converted candlepin. Well, he still bowls candlepins, but he does both actually, and does well at both.
Right. Give him a lot of credit for that, and all those bowlers that jump back and forth from candlepin to duckpin. It's tough. It doesn't look like much of a difference. The ball's only, a pound heavier or lighter, depending
a little smaller, a little lighter.
But
pins are different, that's for sure.
Absolutely. As far as delivering the ball,
yeah.
so as we see with John's score being updated, he is now 19 pins behind Bernie. But they're both still over that 150.
Yeah, and
150 pace.
If I were bowling in this tournament, and John Blaze has the opportunity to see his competition bowl right in front of him every time. So, I mean, I'm not going to look at that as I just lost the lead. I'm going to look at that as, you know what, that guy just went almost 180 twice, and I'm still only 19 pins behind.
Right.
I'm going to think of that as a positive.
And what an advantage that is to have the person that you're chasing right there in front of you to help. You're there to able to push each other.
Oh, absolutely. It's like instant motivation.
Instead of having to worry about if he's 3 or 4 pairs over, constantly looking over to see how they're doing. They're right there, and again, it's a mental advantage, I think, to be able to push each other on and know exactly what you need as the day goes on. Another advantage, this entire shift, due to the number of bowlers, there's exactly 33 bowlers on this shift. They're bowling 3 to a pair instead of your traditional 4 to a pair.
That is absolutely a huge. Just to keep the pace that smooth for 6 games is just so beneficial for your mental part of it. I know sometimes you bowl in this tournament, and you can have just by the numbers. I mean, we talked about if one more bowler had come in and made it 34. That would have changed the dynamics completely.
Right.
We're watching.
We're watching a continuous loop of Bernie's Strikesville here as our executive producer Brian Ewing is working on readjusting the cameras.
We got a loop of a replay going.
But we could be watching worse. I mean, all good habits. You can follow the form here of Bernie Hipkins.
Bernie's going to love that, though, seeing that strike over and over, and he'll watch that.
Hey, that's good positive reinforcement to watch.
He's going to be able to
to
dissect that ball right down to what exactly happened on every pin.
But I'm sure if you asked him, I'm sure he wasn't completely satisfied with that ball because he was on the other side. He was on the 1-2 pocket going away. I'm sure he prefers the 1-3.
Yeah,
he had to wait for the 5 to get knocked off the wall. So
there was like 2 pins left on the deck. That wasn't quite good enough. It's going to focus our attention also down the screen, and on the left-hand side, you can also see, besides the open division, we also have the B division and C division. Those are both based on average, and those are sponsored prizes. Those are not part of the main prize fund that the open division is bowling for, but there are sponsors who contribute to that. And you see some of the it's one of the reasons this tournament is so unique. It gives some of the lower average bowlers a chance to compete. Not only are they competing for the open prize, but they also are involved in competition for it's a smaller amount, but you're bowling against your own kind. In other words, Tommy Clausen averaging 141 through 6 games has got to be thrilled. That's a great start for him to the tournament. I see Dave Wander just bowled his 7th game, and he's right about exactly on pace, 141.3. And then Rick Gano, you see Rick Gano listed both in the B and C division. That's based on average. So,
and Rick Gano is a former champion.
Yes, he is.
Of the Eastern Classic. So he, even though is in the C division, you can't rule him out for.
He's had some
the tournament,
huge
the overall
games.
Tournament itself. He bowls here out of Lucky Strike Lanes, and I actually bowled against him last Thursday night in the league here. He bowled well. He had a good last 2 games, I believe.
Some real. We had to, as you can see on our live feed, we're trying to upgrade, move the camera from one end of the house to the other. We're going almost as far away from where we were to get where the leaders are. They went from lanes 19 and 20 down to lanes 1 and 2. So We have Eric Pellet on the screen right
Yep,
now.
he's on the screen here for the first time. Eric had 894 his first block. Just waiting for an update on his second game today. He had 146 to start the day. Give him a total of 1,040, just under 150 average. So it's waiting to see what his 8th game score was, see if it gets him any closer to 150.
Another bowler who has the anytime he can go 200 anytime.
Right. And he started. I can't see what he started with.
Appears our and our leaders in the clubhouse, if you will, Hipkins and Blaze, are moving down to a pair that is notorious for some big games. 1 and 2 have produced some of the largest games in the history of this house. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if it's physical. I don't know if people just get down there and they hear the stories and it just gives you that little edge to think you can do it. But
Yeah, I'm sure it's a
seems to
little bit of
happen.
both. Yeah, I'm sure it's both. For whatever reason, just the way that the deck is set, or the depth of the gutters, or
Yeah,
who
no,
knows what. The
it's
depth
hard
of
to
the pits. There could be
some little
difference,
nuance.
right? But I think a lot of it's mental. You're making the turn from the high end, and you go back down to 1 and 2. You're like, all right, here's an opportunity for me to
Yep.
pop a big game. So Eric Pellet did start with a spare his first frame, the 3rd game. And we do have his score updated, so he didn't. It's like he fell off the pace a little bit. He's down to a 146.1 average after 8.
So it looks like a 129. He was at 1040. He's at 1169.
There
So
you go.
129 for the 8th game for Pellet.
So he'll have some work to do, and not only get to 150, but to catch up with Bernie and John.
So Pellet up again. We've only seen Eric briefly today, so we're going to have camera on him, and while the boys down on lane 1 and 2 get settled into their 9th game.
So Eric working on a spare in the first. Not happy with his delivery based on the body English there. Talking with his hands as he went off the side for 7.
I think he'll take the load and
Absolutely.
the leave. It's just jumped around that 9 pin. Couldn't push it through.
I'm sure he wasn't expecting to make it, hitting it the head pin on the
No.
outside, but sometimes you make it that way,
Yeah,
so
it's-
there's still a chance, but not this time. So
Wanna
he does,
if
does clean it up for 10, though.
you're shooting that 139, you pretty much want to go through the 1-3 and carry
Right.
into the 9. But
And even that's not a guarantee.
No,
Sometimes
you gotta hit it
come in
pretty-
at too hard of an angle, and
yeah.
you pick the 3 off the 9. You leave the 9, the
Think-
sleeper pin standing.
I think Mike Labrie would tell you there's 8 ways to miss that, aside from missing all the pins.
Right. And he's bowling the shift as well. Oh, I hear him. He's definitely here. I hear him. I don't see him, but I hear him. That's very common. So we've got, last I heard, we're over 150 entries for the entire tournament. I'm not sure what the exact number is, and I'm sure we'll be adding to that total as we might pick up some last-minute registrations.
Pretty spectacular turnout for the first weekend. Over 60 bowlers, 65 bowlers, I believe, for weekend
Right.
1, which is I was talking to Kyle Shaw earlier, and he said that's almost double they usually see 30 to 40 bowlers in the first weekend. So this turnout so far has been spectacular. This is the first year, of course, that the tournament has been opened up to the women, which is, I think, is a great thing. There are a few women participating. I know this afternoon's shift, there's a handful of women who will be here. I know there's 1 or 2 on this shift as well.
Michelle Haller, I believe.
Yes. And if you notice Michelle Haller, when you brought that name up, that's the name sitting in the 3rd spot of the B division. So
And there are multiple Hallers. I'm not sure if it's
Well, it's true.
husband
It's-
and
I'm
wife.
sorry.
Well, I think it's her, though. I think that is we'll get confirmation of that.
And if that is her averaging 135, that's a very impressive start for 8 games.
All right, so now we are back down on 1 and 2 with Bernie and John.
So
Bernie Hipkins, John Blaze.
Just from the reaction, it looked like John slid by on that.
Yeah, the 4-pin. I think he covered it for a 10. And here's Bernie on lane 1.
And that's a middle. Trying to get Bernie's score up to
Right.
date. And I'm not going to apologize. The guys that are doing that are working like worker bees flown around here trying to get these scores up to date
Right.
as quickly as possible. It's with this many games going on simultaneously, it's a very difficult task to keep every score completely accurate and up to the minute.
Up to the second,
Yeah.
right. I'm very grateful for the volunteers. We've got Chris Gano. We've got John Zeke is helping on a camera, who's actually bowling the next shift. Roy Kaczewski Jr. So Bernie finishes that frame with a 9.
Yeah, Jim, we get to sit here and do the easy part, sort of. Just call what we're looking at. And those guys are running around doing all the work.
Well, at some point I'm going to tag out, and I think we're going to let our Hall of Fame volunteer Roy Kaczewski Jr.
Birthday boy, right?
in the booth for a little bit.
Birthday
on
weekend?
Friday.
Yeah.
Same. He shares a birthday with many famous, prominent people, including my wife.
There you go.
Happy birthday, Jen. George Washington,
Wow.
February 22nd, and Roy Kaczewski Jr.
There you go.
So yes, he'll be making his Duckpin TV debut later on today. So we've got Chris Gano updating the scores here for Bernie and John. So Bernie Hipkins 34 in the third, John Blaze 29 after 2 frames.
And just so no one, I mean, once you've watched this for a few frames, you're going to figure it out. But the Blaze and Hipkins scores are staying there permanently. Those are our basically the 2 leaders right now. What you see in front of you is Eric Pellet bowling. We'll keep you up to date on his scores as well.
And it looks like Eric started spare, open, spare. So he's going to be working on a spare. This is his 4th frame. We're picking him up here in the 4th on a spare.
Last time in this frame, he was just off the head pin off to the left. This time he's much more solid. We'll take another look at that ball from Eric Pellet. Very smooth approach on that 10 pin, right on the face.
Back to John Blaze on lane 1.
So the leaders are struggling down there on the infamous pair.
Right. And sometimes maybe you push too hard thinking, hey, this is the fast pair. I don't think so with these two, though. Almost converts it. Looks like he left just the 5 pin.
5 pin stayed up. But again, I mean, it doesn't really matter what lanes you're bowling on. You're coming off a 177, 179. You got to expect at least a small area of
Momentum.
just a little bit
Yeah.
of a, it's got to be a little bubble burst. And then, he's only in frame 3. If he comes out of this next one if he starts marking again, it's gone. That's the stretch, and then you move on.
And it looks like John had left the 5-10, not just the 5. So
Yeah,
he
the 10
cleaned
was
up
over
for a
in the
9
corner,
box.
Yeah.
So Bernie Hipkins in the 4th. And one thing you'll notice similarity-wise, Bernie's a righty, John Blaze is a lefty, but they both lay that ball down with a lot of drive on it, a lot of spin right at the line when they release. Bernie, as you see here,
See this ball from Bernie, like dead nuts in the pocket.
Right.
Solid. solid 5-pin.
Bernie with the hook spin.
Here he is attempting the 5 for spare, and there you go, starting
Yep.
right off. Back on the saddle.
Back on it. Back on the horse. So Bernie with the hook spin and John Blaze. Oh, I'm sorry. John Blaze with the backup. So John Blaze, 38 in the third after a strike back-to-back opens. And again, looking up at Bernie on the leaderboard, 19 pins behind going to this game. This is game 9 of 12 for these bowlers.
We'll see.
And looks like we're watching, we're waiting for Eric. This is Todd Turcotte, the men's Duckpin Pro Tour president, finishing up his frame.
So Pellet is on a load.
Right. Eric has spared 3 out of his first 4 frames, including the 4th frame. So here he is in the 5th, filling a spare.
He's going to like that result, isn't he?
That is not a spare.
No, it's not.
10 in the pit. So he's marked 4 out of his first 5 frames. He's on the right track. Game 9.
Another look at that shot from Pellet. This is a bomb. Nothing left on that one. And then another rip through the middle for Blaze, and he ended up. It's like the 4-6. Is that the 4-6-7?
3.
Was it
3-4-7?
3-4-7. Either way, either of those is bad.
And yeah, so John Blaze is not a lefty, as I erroneously said before, but he has the
But
backup.
he
Wow.
can make that shot, though, can't he?
Well, that backup spin came in handy on that shot.
He says, that's nothing. All I got to do is hit the outside of that pin over there. It'll go over in the corner and take out the other 2. No big deal.
Our executive producer, Brian Ewing, hooking us up with this replay.
You just watch the replay on this. This is perfectly executed. The ball is exactly where it needs to be.
Right.
Going away. Boom.
That shot is custom tailored for John's ball, and he took advantage of it. Oof. Bernie almost was looking at the 5-7-10 for a split second, but still has the 5-7 to contend with, so that's an 8 fill. And we'll see if Bernie can match the split conversion.
Yeah, he's going to basically do the
match
same.
John.
He's got to do the same thing John did. Just throw
So
that ball off the side.
His ball will be tailing into the pin instead of tailing away, so he's got to compensate for that. We're waiting for some deadwood.
See Kyle Shaw make his first appearance on Duckpin TV's Eastern Classic this year. He'll be making a reappearance next weekend on the lanes.
Expect him to be among the contenders. One of the top bowlers out of Connecticut, plus he bowls here out of Lucky Strike, so I'm sure we'll be focusing on him at some point when he bowls.
Well, he's got pretty close to a 150 average, so if he just bowls average, he'll be up there without even doing anything special for him.
He's one of the bowlers I think who's probably, due is the right word. I'm not sure to win an Eastern.
He's still very young in comparison to many of the bowlers out here, but absolutely always, in my mind, always going to be amongst the contenders for the championship. Just off camera just moments ago, Pellet looking to throw a double. I'm going to say you got away with that one, huh, Jim?
I would think so, and takes advantage of it. Ugly ball, still gets 9, and
that was so
takes
close
full
to
advantage.
for 2, huh?
Right, I'm sure he thought that's what he was thinking halfway down the lane. Not 2, please, no, not 2. Ends up somehow with 9. And those are the breaks that you need. Who knows if he goes off the side for 2?
Yeah,
how the rest of his day goes.
You don't know. Blaze trying to. Man, that's a frustrating feeling. Huh? You make that great conversion, and you come right back and rip the middle again. Ball's right where it wants to be, right in a head pin.
See if he has anything to pull out of his bag of tricks here.
Well, gave it a run.
Almost got a bonus pin there, but he finishes up with 9.
Let's see.
So there.
Once again, we'll take a look at where this ball ends up. It's just a fraction from where that thing just explodes. Instead, it's just dead on the head pin.
Would you say it's an inch difference?
I would say less than an inch.
Yeah. But that puts John and Bernie dead even at 62 after 5. Means Bernie Hipkins is still 19 pins clear of John Blaze.
Throws a very, very impactful ball. That ball
Heavy.
explodes.
Very heavy ball. Leaves the 4 sevens.
And there's a nice conversion from Bernie.
Right.
So when we go back to Eric Pellet and we start looking at the, again, we're only in game 9. Eric's roughly 50 pins shy of Bernie going into this game, and he's made up a few already.
Right, 20 or so. Looks like Eric with that 9 fill is at 105 after 6.
Yeah, so theoretically he's made up almost 30 pins. And that was just a hair from being another strike.
Eric has 86 after 5. Bernie and John each with 62, so there's 26 pins.
Yeah. And again, we're in game 9. We have still 3 more games to go after this game, but Pellet's got to be thinking this is it right here. Make a move, get in the picture, and then finish with a big 3.
And do you think he knows what Bernie and John have?
No, I don't think he knows. I don't think he should be even carrying in
Right.
game 9, but
Right.
I know he's thinking I got to throw something.
Right.
This game, I don't think he's concerned about what they're doing.
Just focusing on his score, his
Right.
game, his mechanics.
Absolutely.
It's hard not to peek over the corner, out of the corner of your eye, though.
Oh, I mean, well, when you get to game 11 and 12, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
But I don't think in game 9.
I think there's more of that as you get closer to the end of
Yeah.
your tournament.
Especially if you know you're in it.
But if all of a sudden, if John or Bernie throws a double or triple and you hear the crowd, and hear some noise, you probably are going to look over and see what's going on.
Yeah, you start not paying attention.
And here's John Blaze in the 6th frame, trying to match.
He's got to find. Oh, he gets a break, sort of.
Oh, I would call that a break when you're looking at the 7-10 for a quick second. But now just the 7. And I would assume this is probably his least favorite of the corner pins, just the way that
the way he's got to go after it. He's got to kind of inside out it.
Where his ball spins away from it.
Being a candlepin bowler, though, he's so precise on his shots that
Right.
one pinners for him are probably mentally very simple. But
And
did exactly what we actually were afraid of.
you jinxed him right out of it.
Yeah.
But no, going to your point with candlepin bowlers, much as difficult and challenging as duckpins is, candlepins is even more so.
Oh, you have to be so well. You have the added feature of deadwood that you don't know what it's. I mean, I don't know when I bowl candlepins. I have no idea what that dead was going to help me or not.
Right. You almost need to be a geometrist.
It's
If
like
that's even a word, but if whether or not where to hit the deadwood, if it's going to help or hurt, but
Yeah.
the ball's a little bit smaller in candlepin. The pins are skinnier, so there's even more room for
And
error.
then another middle.
And that was on a spare for Bernie Hipkins. Looks like just 4 filling his spare.
So that puts Eric Pellet back in position to make up even more ground.
And Eric did convert that spare as his last one pinner we saw. So he's at 115 plus in the 7th. Eric's got 6
Definitely-
marks in a row. He started
definitely,
spare, open, spare, strike, spare.
He absolutely turning it on right at the right time.
Locked in.
Bernie's attempt at converting that split. I don't know what that.
And cleans it up for 9.
Here's
So
Pellet
struggling a bit.
loading
but
up.
Eric's-
Get off the side a little bit.
Yeah.
Didn't catch that 7 pin, which
See
would
if
have.
you can watch his release here.
Yeah.
Maybe comes around the ball a little bit instead of staying underneath it. Little
off the
inside
side,
out.
Yeah, but just didn't quite get tight in the pocket.
Pin fades away. The ball fades away from the 1-3, leaving the 5-7-8 split.
Tried it.
I either wanted to be a little bit heavier or a little bit lighter to kick the 8 over to the 7. But
He made a good run there, though. Get himself into the 50s with another mark. He's in the 60s.
Is it
32 in the 8th.
yes, 132 in the 8th for Eric Pellet. Fortunately, Eric's right in front of us, so we can read a score off the telescore. But even that's a little bit blurry.
And actually, Eric will finish 2 games directly in front of us, so that should be his last 3 games will be physically right in front of us, in front of the telescores. So
We can keep an eye on him if we continue to focus on John Blaze and Bernie Hipkins.
So now John Blaze really in a position where this is the first time he's really struggled for this long of a stretch.
Yeah, and both John and Bernie have some work to do to come out of this game 9 with a decent score.
It's maybe the first time we see it, but it won't be the last time where someone that's not bowling jumps up in the standings very quickly.
Oh, unlucky there. John punches the 4-pin off the 7. There's an opportunity for John to make something out of this game, and just unlucky, but goes by it again for 9. Leaves a pin up on the deck there. Can't afford to do too much of that.
I'm sure we'd have a hard time convincing John and Bernie that the pair they're bowling on is notorious for having some of the highest games in the history.
Right.
Right. Man, you just never know.
It looks like John's ball even hit the 4 twice. He hit it twice, but doesn't count. He only gets to knock it over once.
So here we are, Bernie and John, 3 boxes to go, and not critical, but pivotal, if you will, game 9, setting up for the last 3. Wow, that seemed like a really tight 9 drop.
Almost maybe a little too tight even, where he's not, the pins don't stay on the deck to try and mix into each other, but he put 9 in the pit there, see if he can convert the 7.
Yeah, big
Plenty.
spot right there for Bernie.
And he gave a little pump of the fist, knowing that was an important one to get his game in the right direction.
Yep.
His 9th game. Oh, we're going to go, and here's a
Let's take a
replay
look
of Eric
at-
Pellet's
Yeah,
first
Ninth.
ball in the 8th frame.
I think he's in the 9th.
9th, I'm sorry.
He left a split and well,
Do you have a pin slide on him there?
yeah, it
The
slid. I
5
think the
slid
5
over?
pin slid a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thought he might be able to kick the ball over to convert the mini split, but wasn't able to. So that's 2 opens in a row for Eric after 6 in a row, 6 marks in a row. Not a lot of strikes that we've seen on camera here. John with just 1 this game. Bernie, no strikes. Eric with just 1 strike in his game. So proving that Duckpins is a game of spares.
I was talking to John Zekas Jr. Earlier, and he has that 907 through 6, and he only had 1 double all
Wow.
day. He threw a 4-bagger, but it was in the 9th and 10th, so
Didn't get the full
he
benefit
didn't get
of
the full
it.
benefit.
Right. And I know in his first game this morning, Bernie had 2 doubles.
Yes.
His first game today, I know Bernie started spare, double, and then I believe open and another double.
Yep, and the open was a rocket 9, and he missed a single. John Blaze, again, off the side. We've seen that a couple times now.
He did that in the 10th frame of the last game where he left the 4 horsemen, so he's got another opportunity to convert it. The 1-3-6-10.
This is one of those shots for John that really works for him. If he throws it where he should, his tendency to make that is much more than any of ours because his ball
Just like that.
His
Right,
ball
because
goes right through it.
ball into the 1-3, his ball's going to just deflect and drive right into the 6
Yep.
and 10. which is exactly what happened.
It's almost like I knew that was going to happen.
Here's a replay of his first ball.
That first ball just way off the side. Just didn't chop, but
Fortunate not to chop.
big ninth frame. Big ninth frame for Bernie Hipkins. He kicks it out. Almost takes a trips in 5.9. Big 9 load for Bernie. Another single pin to shoot at. Watch this replay. The pin comes off the wall and almost clips both. Just a little short of catching both the 5 and the 9.
Ouch.
And that's a rare video right there.
You see him pulling up. His body was pulling up as he was delivering that ball. So
Got there too quick.
as he pulled up, his arm pulled up, and he pulled the ball left. That one stayed down, overcompensated right.
I think Pellet finished up with another open. I'm not sure if he went 52, I believe.
Yeah, we'll get a confirmation of Eric's 9th game, but I believe you're right. He did open the last 3 frames after 6 marks in a row.
So Pellet will now move one pair over and start their 10th game, Eric Pellet's group, as Blaze and Hipkins complete their 9th game.
All right, so now it's John's turn to try and convert the 5-pin.
And then John's already missed a single this game, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he's gonna drill this one right in the face.
And it's not a make or break, but again, late in the game, you want to try and fill the frames as much as possible to make something out of what's been a tough game to this point. So this is the pivotal spot here for John.
It gives him a chance to get into the 30s or even 40s if he marks out. Yeah, he did hit that right in the face.
Oh, and he knew it.
He knew it.
Gave a little pump of the fist as he was connecting with the 5. That gives him 2 marks in a row, maybe a little bit of momentum to finish this game.
See this difference in this first ball. Look where it lands on the lane. He got that one just a little bit further out. Both him and Bernie put it right down almost an inch off the floor.
Right.
Bernie blocked that, but it's another 5-pin. And he's got to be thinking to himself, there goes 9 pins.
Well, it's the same shot he missed last frame here, so get a little revenge on the 5-pin here. Plus the 10th frame, opportunity to get into the 130s.
Yeah, he didn't come out stand up on that one. He came right down through it.
It must have been. Yep, he pointed, I think, to John. Because maybe
showed him how.
Right, exactly.
So Hipkins now needs a big load to get to the 30s. It's going to take his average down just a tad. That's a big load.
Wow.
Big ball right there.
We saw him throw a lot of awesome first balls, just bombs where he couldn't get the strike that game. But
132 for Bernie Hipkins. So that's going to obviously drop his average down a little bit. 20 pins spread out over 8 games. It's about a little less than 3 pins drop. So he'll be probably under 150. Well, he might be right at 150. See that replay of the last single that Blaze made, and he's about to load that.
There's Chuck Cook from Maryland in the orange with black trim shirt.
Excuse me.
Also a Pro Tour bowler. Bit of a unique delivery. Bowls on the slides on the opposite foot, but Works for him. I believe he's high 130s, maybe close to 140 average bowler.
So here's Johnny Blaze up in the 10th frame, looking to load and add another to put him. I don't think he needs a double to get to the lead, I believe, but he can get pretty darn close without one.
Right. Heavy in the pocket this time. Almost, I thought that Deadwood was going to
Looked like it was going to do a little bit more damage.
take both pins out, but it gets just the 6 to trip, leaving the 3.
See that come off around from behind, off the wall, and just kicked. Didn't quite hit the right angle.
Heavy.
Comes all the way around the back and just kicks it the wrong way. And he didn't even think about that one. That's
3 spare conversions in a row for John.
That's coming off a missed single, so that did not mentally affect him the way it can sometimes when you miss a single. That's a big break right there.
So 138. John Blaze picks up 6 pins on Bernie.
Yeah, you watch that game and you think, right, Johnny just made up some room, but Bernie finished open mark to keep it, just keep him at bay a little bit.
So as far as competing against each other, not too big of a
But I do
of a
believe
dent in their armor, but
I believe Zeke has just passed both of them though without
that's
even
what I
throwing
was
a
going
ball.
to get to.
Yeah.
That as far as looking at the big picture for the entire tournament, they gave up some pins there.
So the next time you see that leaderboard updated, I believe the 151.2 is going to be just ever so slightly ahead of Hipkins and then followed by Blaze. Pellet made a slight charge up to 146, almost 147, but he needs to have 3 more big games, probably bigger than what he just threw.
Right. Yeah, 152 is nice, but it's not going to cut it as far as getting him over 1,800.
No, it's not going to get him to where he needs to be.
Right.
Absolutely.
And just as you predicted, now we see John Zekas after 6's 151 average is atop the average score leaderboard.
Hipkins hung on to that 150 average, which is, of course, the critical number, and Blaze just fell 8 pins below it. So I expect a big game out of one or both of these guys right now. That was they survived that game. If you really break it down, they did not. Neither of them threw the ball as well as they had been, and they both came out of it in the 130s.
Well, after 7th frames, if you look, they were both in the 80s. They're only 11 and 15 pins over their frame, and yeah, I think they kind of felt not the pressure, but just the sense of urgency. I think maybe overtook their minds, and they went between the two of them, spared 5 out of the last 6 frames.
Right, and loaded them all.
Right,
everything was a 9 load. 5 loads, 5 9 loads. Very impressive.
So not the results that they wanted off of lanes 1 and 2, but they did finish on an uptick with marks out of 5 out of 6 marks between the two of them in the last 3 frames, and they move on to lanes 3 and 4 now. All right. So now Eric Pellet checking his slide on 14 to start his 10th game.
That said low battery. Whatever that. Oh, okay.
And for those of you who might be just tuning in now, we are at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut for the 89th edition of the Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Duckpin Classic. This is the longest running tournament in duckpin bowling. Very prestigious tournament. Open tournament. Everyone bowls 12 games, and the highest score, scratch, so no handicap added based on your average. Your best 12 games or your highest 12-game total wins the tournament. With that said, though, you'll see we have leaderboards for the open division. We also have leaderboards for the B division and C division for the lower average bowlers. So we'll be keeping track of those as well.
And there's also a handicapped optional, but we're not going to list because that's just beyond beyond what we want to keep track of. But the handicap division is another opportunity for everyone, high average and low average bowlers, to compete in a separate pool. So
And win additional prizes. Where
Yep.
there's also a senior division.
this
Wow. That was a great way for Eric Pellet to start his
Nice.
10th game. He
very nice.
went light in the 1-2, leaving the 5-6, 9-10, and that was a textbook conversion right there.
And getting back to the prizes in this tournament, there's all kinds of sponsored prizes for each game. There's block prizes. It's really an interesting tournament in that you can have 3 good games somewhere in a set, and it actually will pay you back a little bit for showing up, even
Right.
though you didn't have a great day.
Right, depending on which optional side pools you got into. There's so many different ways.
Yeah.
And then just the block awards, which are part of the main prize
Correct.
pool. There's so
Right.
many different ways where you can win something over the course of your tournament. So it's very unique in
think
that respect.
I think it's a good way to keep bowlers focused on every game, you know?
Absolutely right. If it was just a 12-game tournament, after 7 or 8 games, you
Yeah,
realize,
you're
hey,
out
I
of
have
it.
no shot at winning
Yeah.
anything, and maybe kind of give up hope. But that's not the case with this tournament, not with the Eastern. Always a reason to try your best every game.
Well, it should always be that way, right? But
We're right, but we're human.
But we're human, yeah. So we're gonna have Pellet's gonna be loading up on a mark. He's now really put himself. It's only 34 pins off of Hipkins' pace. I mean, that's over 3 games. That's not a really.
No,
That's not a
11
mountain.
pins, 12 pins
Yeah,
a game
it's
you need to make
nothing.
up. Very makeable.
Of course, he's got to also keep in mind that Zekas is beyond that.
Right,
So
waiting in the wings.
right.
And Eric, actually, I would call that was a gift, that mark in the first frame. You don't expect to make that, and it looks like we just saw.
We're going to see a replay of Pellet's load here in a second.
Bernie left the 9-10.
See a conversion there from. Here's Pellet
That was
on his
Mike
load in the
Labrie
second-
walking away
the second
of a
frame.
single pin there on the right side of the screen.
Watch this ball.
Very heavy.
Wait a minute. And yep, he did get it.
Yeah, a lucky break for Eric, leaving just the 4-pin. And his head gets in the way. Not a surprise, but he does convert it. So he comes out with 2 spares in a row.
Our first reference to Eric Pellet's crown today.
The 8 head. There's a lot of different names for that, and I'm allowed to make fun of him because I've got a big egg head myself. So
That's all right. We haven't actually referred to Johnny Blaze yet by his well-known nickname. A lot of his candlepin buddies call him the Squirrel. So
I'm curious to find out how that originated.
Yeah,
Where
we'll
did
have
that
to
come
talk to-
from?
I don't know.
We'll see. We'll get the scoop on that.
a lot of squirrel references when Johnny Blaze is bowling.
Yes. And here he is.
That's the best ball he's thrown all day. Wasn't in his hand though.
So
Right,
he's
Johnny Blaze is always very methodical before his approach.
started his 10th game with a spare, filling it here in the second.
And that's ouch.
Ouch, indeed. Just 2.
And so close to, if you 2 load and you come back and make it, it's like, you know what? You got away with 1.
Right.
Load this one and go. But, man, he gets no break on that either. Makes both pins count, though, by
Right.
10 box.
But still only 2 above his frame
Yeah.
after 2. Bernie yet to mark in this 10th game.
We're going
And
to take a look at a replay here for Pellet in his third box, starting the game with 2 marks. What do you think, Jim?
Spare. Strike.
Look at that. And he didn't even get in the way of that one.
No, we had a good angle with the camera. We're good on lane 14 with him. Lane 13 is going to be the problem.
I'll get down there and tell him to throw your ball and get out the way.
Keep your head down.
Wow. What the heck?
That is a tough leave.
So that's thin?
I
Thin?
think that was heavy.
It's hard to imagine Hipkins throwing a ball thin. So outside the 2-pin? Best call? Outside the 2-pin.
Yeah, you want to hit the 2-pin light either way. Oh! You hit it light on the outside and hope it comes off the wall, and that's what happened, but everything but the 9.
Great attempt on that.
Absolutely. But that's going to lead to a third open in a frame in a row to start game 10 for Bernie Hipkins. So he's in a bit of a struggle mode right now.
So right now, as we are very early in game 10, Pellet's made up a good bunch of the 30 pins that he needed already.
And I'm sure Eric's already thinking double. He's got a strike working in the third.
His last one was a strike, but it wasn't one of his classic bombs that he when he gets hot, man, his pins just jump.
Right, just disappear. There's a replay of Bernie's attempt on that odd split.
Pellet drops 9 on that, leaving the 5 pin down there right in the middle of the lane. Everybody's favorite spare shot, right, Jim?
It's his favorite corner, he told me. Wow. Didn't hear anything.
Wow.
Rare miss. At least today. And in general with Eric. He's a very good spare shooter. Covers it for 10.
I'm shocked that he went by that, really.
But he has 68 after 4. So he's already up 28 on his box in game 10.
Okay, this is going to see off camera here. We had, while we were watching Eric, Johnny Blaze coming into your picture right here. Nice follow through. And a nice result. It was.
Got him. So that's a strike in the third for John Blaze.
A different angle here on 3 and 4. I like the you see the bowler come into the picture. You get to see the whole pin action.
I believe that's John Zekas providing us with the camera work.
Yeah, John's doing a great job. That would be 10.
That was the ball of the day. Bernie Hipkins crushes 10.
Yeah, that was right on time, too, in his mind. Right on time. There's nothing left to fight here.
And nothing not to like about this ball. Stays down, comes through, underneath the ball with drive. Goodbye.
Everything was gone at the same time. You're going to see Pellet now coming off that rare missed single. He doesn't even get the obligatory strike after you miss a single. It's making him work here for the 5-7.
Just looking to get a 10 box out of this. Don't leave any pins on the deck.
He did a good job. So halfway through, he's still having a nice 10th game.
Get a groan out of Eric there after his last 2 frames not
went,
going according to plan.
Went behind it, in front of it. Blaze almost leaving that four horseman again, but kicks out the head pin this time.
And it seems I know John had a strike the last frame, but he seems to be flirting with the head pin where he's just a little light, a little heavy, just missing. But
Nothing. I think he's got to love that. When those pins are lined up on the right-hand side of the lane, it must mentally be so much easier for him. He knows he can hit it where most of us think we're going to go around it. If we're off a little bit, he's not going around it. His ball drives straight through.
Yep. You know, in golf, some holes play to a golfer's fade or draw, and that shot plays to Johnny's fade.
In golf, that would be a power fade.
There you go. Bernie on that strike. It's now a double.
So there's Hipkins right back on it.
Yep. Not the bomb ball that he had in his first strike, but had the pin action, taking out the 5-10. That's a big double for Bernie. It's Nick Castaneris on the left side of your screen from Maryland. Dropping 9. And I'm going to get some information. I know this gentleman bowling with Eric here. I know Eric's bowling with Michelle Haller. I want to get Dale Burgos, I'm being told, is Rafael Burgos. I'm sorry. Sorry, Raf. Got your name wrong, but I've got it now.
Mike Labree's making a lot of noise. He must have something. Looks like he's got a triple up there.
He still does have a triple. Is
that a triple for Labree?
Yep, Mike Labree off camera started 10-box spare triple.
Yeah, I heard him getting a little loud. He was yelling over to Pellet. Pellet needs a triple right now. He'd like one of those.
And
so now Blaze looking to respond to the double. He's got 3 marks out of 4 boxes, but the 2-load impacted one of them. Left a 7-10, unfortunately.
And again, just looking to get a 10 out of this and move on. Nope.
Goes by it.
Just 9. So that gives John Blaze 69 halfway through his 10th game on a 138 pace for the game. Not the pace he's looking for. Obviously, you want at least 150, 75 halfway through. He's not there. He has some work to do. And now Bernie on his double. A better ball than his last, but
very smooth.
Little light, leaves the 5. Good fill on the double. Great opportunity for him to keep this good game moving.
Wow.
Oh, and he knew it as soon as he let go.
I didn't have to watch the rest of the shot. I knew it as soon as he
hands
got
to the side of his head. Might have been a drop of the shoulder a little bit there. I don't know what it was. It didn't seem like he pulled up on it.
Pellet, you could hear it clank
right
through the head pin. The result was the 2, 3, 4. Not something you really want to shoot at. It looks like he even moved a little bit. It's a little wider than.
And only 8 out of that. Rushed his last ball there, I think, out of frustration. So that's 3 opens in a row after 3 marks in a row to start his 10th game. Eric Pellet, 86 in the 6th. So he's a pin behind Bernie this game.
See another.
So the pins that Eric had made up earlier in this game have given them all back, or Bernie's taking them back.
Taking them back with a double
With the
nine.
double.
Could have been more if he.
Right.
John Blaze got to be thinking, now we are in a point where you're in the middle of the 10th game. You get 25 boxes left. It's you don't have many boxes left to give away.
Right. It's go time. You're not quite averaging 150. You're definitely not averaging 150 this game.
Another tough break.
Yeah. That crack noise as he hit heavy. Leaving the split. Common split, 2 on one side, 1 on the other. Tried to kick the 2 off the wall to slide into the other 2, but it picked it. And just an 8.
Another 8 box. So the only one of our leaders who's really is throwing well right now seems to be Bernie, and he's coming off a missed single. So
Right. Let's see how he can recover, rebound off of that. He's missed 2 out of the last 3 5 pins he's had to shoot at. See if that's on his mind.
Man,
That was a light.
it was very light.
4, 7, 8, 10.
Yep.
Makeable. Got to hit the 4 light. You hit the 4, 7 where you're hitting the 4 light, and hopefully the 4 carries into the 8 and 10. But I'd say it's maybe less than 10%.
Need some help from the walls here.
Oh!
Or you could just make it clean.
Wow.
Wow.
So, again, going back to golf, a lot of times when they're over a putt, they'll show what the percentage probability is.
Yeah.
I think I'd put that at under 10%, but
Pellets.
Bernie made it. He's at 100% today shooting that.
Yeah.
1 for 1.
Well,
Made it look easy.
he's got to be thinking to himself, I can't make a single pin in the middle of the deck, but I can make that every time. What
Well,
the-
Eric just showed him, though. We had a replay of Eric Pellet converting a 5-pin, so he's got a markup in the 7th frame. 96 plus in the 7th for Eric Pellet. So whether they know it or not, they're keeping pace with each other. Here's a replay of Bernie's phenomenal conversion. Textbook.
Just kicked it right over there.
That was as clean as you can make that shot. I'm sure Bernie has to be thinking to himself, I missed a single. I missed a 5-pin right in the middle of the lane. I can make that.
Easy. Made it look easy. It's Blaze. Kicks out everything but the 4-7. And Johnny just slides in front of the 7-pin, so he's struggling now.
Yeah. Living dangerously if you're counting on making those multiple pin shots on the outside. They don't always go, and here's an example of that, where he hits the 4-pin very light on the outside. And even though it slides in front of the 7-pin not once, not twice, but 3 times, doesn't knock it over, and leaves it up on the deck for a 9-box too. So that's 3 pins, 4 pins he's left up on the plate in the last 3 frames.
Wow.
Oh, Bernie stomping his foot, wasn't happy that he thought he was going to be ripping the middle on his spare fill, but wood flies around and
Happily take the 9.
right, just the 7-pin. Here's a replay. And watch Bernie here, his reaction, stomping, thinking he's ripping the middle, but no. Duckpin gods are going to be kind to you on this ball. Ouch. That one never had a chance. So
Wow.
we've seen Bernie miss a few single pin conversion opportunities in the last game or so, where it could have really made the difference, get him staying over 150 average. Eric with another spare. Looks like he converted a two-pinner there. So Eric's at 114 plus in the 8th.
Definitely a game of missed opportunities here for Bernie. He's going to look back, and even if he marks out, he's still going to be looking back on how to, can't be missing 2 singles, 3 singles in a game. As you can see from his body language, he holds himself personally responsible. He tells you exactly what he did wrong and shows you how he did it wrong.
He was mad a little too early. And here's a replay of his attempt to convert the 7-pin.
It's like almost incredulous.
Right. So John Blaze waiting to pull his 8th frame here. Only 16 pins above his box. He's 20 pins behind Bernie for the lead, the live lead, the clubhouse lead.
When he's already 13 under going into the game.
Right.
So. Pellet's actually caught Johnny.
Right. So far, as we look live over at looking at their scores live,
Right.
he's ahead of John. And John does convert that single pinner.
Yeah, he was like, hey, I made one. Well, he's got a chance to close another game out and get it respectable, but they are running out of time.
It's Eric's first ball in his 9th frame, so drops 8, fills his spare with 8.
Oh man, a lot of ugly body language.
It's the curse of the camera here. As soon as we get him on camera, he misses a spare. Does cover it for 10, so 132 after 9.
Rip that Bernie was afraid of last time. Rips 5 out of the middle.
What's going through Bernie's mind right now?
Well, he can't. In his mind, he's probably thinking, I can't string 2 good balls in a row. He's 124, 125. He needs a triple to get to that 50.
It's got to be thinking those single pin misses.
Yeah, you take those hits and put him in there. He's in the 40s instead of the 20s.
But as hard as it is to do, you have to look forward. You can't look back. Can't change what's happened in the past. Have to look forward and give it your best effort. But sometimes it's hard to when you've missed the last couple of breaks you've left and things don't seem to be going your way. Your first ball is hitting the head pin heavy, ripping, or just
whatever.
Not putting it where you want it.
Yeah, you're not throwing the ball where you want it. Basically, is what it boils down to. Your ball's not going where you want to go.
So we're going to pick up Eric Pellet's 10th frame. He has 132 after 9. He just missed that 610 spare leave in the 9th. But he has a chance to get to 150. 18 pins or more gets him over 150.
There's 10 of them in a hurry.
There he is.
That's
short
what we've
memory.
been talking about right there.
Exactly. Not happy. That's 10 pins he could have had on a fill in the 9th if he had made his spare, but throws the ball is about as good as he can. Perfect result. He's got a shot to add to it in the 10th frame. So he has 142 plus. So he still can touch the 160s here with another strike. Oh, you can see right from the get-go, right of his target, off to the right side for 2.
Yeah, 8, 9, 10 here. 8,
Right.
9, 10.
Get to that 150 number. And he does just that. Right on the nose, 150. Eric Pellet, game 10. So that will raise his overall average just a bit.
And now Johnny's even picking that one. He's got to be really frustrated at this point. It's his third or fourth spare that he's picked this game.
Yeah. Oh, Bernie, 125 with a frame to go. Wants to get at least to the 140s, get as close to 150 as possible.
And just like Pellet, just a rocket.
And gave a little fist there. Happy with himself. And still has a shot at the 150s.
Yeah, he throws another one here, and he's not going to give Pellet a chance to gain any ground.
Right. And as it is, Eric's probably only going to gain,
5 or 6 pins. Well, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, depending.
Yeah.
Wow, that ball looked a lot better than the 510. Must have been a little light. So Eric's going to gain no more than 7 pins on Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
So after Bernie's blazing start of 177, 179, he's cooled off a little bit. Wow.
He picks them both, so Pellet picks up 5.
So he finishes with 145, makes the 510 backward, so to speak, hits it on the wrong side, but still gets it off the wall.
And that puts him exactly at 1,500 for 10, which is an easy math problem for me. Actually, easy math problem for many people.
I'm going to say he's averaging 150.
It's pretty close.
That's going to be my guess. So he's right at 150, but as we know, takes more than a 150 average to win the tournament.
Yeah, it hasn't been anything under. Well, I think 53 or 54 for the
Last year it was closer to
69 divided by 12 is 5. Last year was in the 55 range.
154. I think
Yeah.
John D'Antonis with 1859. So yeah, 155, 154. The 2 years before that, we were in the 1830s, so that's still a 153.
Yeah, it's over 150 for
right?
sure. Yeah.
So
I think the lowest 1800 in the past 8 years is 1830.
Looks like Steve Dreyer had Joey Sears had 1815 in 2007.
There you go.
More recently, Will Rigney had 1833 in 2016.
Yep. So you're talking over 150.
Right.
Yep.
And Bernie's right at 150 with only 2 games left to improve on that. So.
Yep. And you should see Pellet move up into 3rd position. Blaze is in need of a monster box here, and his ball's just off
Missed the
the
head
side.
pin. Hoping that this head pin doesn't get knocked over, but as you should, you're supposed to wait for the deadwood to finish moving. If there's an opportunity where it could knock over a pin, you're supposed to wait, and he did. But he's got the 1-4-10.
Oh my goodness!
Clean.
Man,
Just
that was
how we saw Bernie make
beautiful shot.
That 4-pin split. That was perfect geometry here. Had all the angles line up. Where he gets the ball on the left side of the head pin,
I might have
Ball
to stand.
takes out the 4, the pin.
And he leaves 8.
Head pin flies into the 10.
30. So he's now, well, actually, Pellet is only 1 pin behind Blaze. With a 130, that puts Blaze at 1472. 1 pin ahead of Eric Pellet, 28 pins behind Bernie Hipkins, and of course, they all are trailing the average set by John Zekas in his first block yesterday afternoon. It's still Blaze.
Hipkins and Blaze?
Yeah. Blaze hung on by 1 pin.
All right, then let's keep those 2 off there.
I thought he did too.
And we were watching Michelle Haller, one of the first women to compete ever in the Eastern Classic. This is the first year that they're...
So if she is the only woman bowling on this shift, then she was, in fact, the first woman.
This is shift 1, right?
It's a shift 1.
Right.
She's the
So-
only one. So she's it.
This is right. This is
She's the initial
the historic
woman-
entry. And she finishes with a spare and a 9 fill for 113 in her 10th game. She has looks like 13-10 through her first 10 games, so averaging over 130, 131. And you'll see her. She was second place in the C division after 9. We'll see how that 10th game brings her average down a little bit, but it looks like it's still going to keep her in second place, depending on what Rick Yano had in his 10th game. But you are watching first weekend coverage of the 89th annual Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Duckpin Classic. We're at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. I'm Jim Kaufman. Along with me is Pat Rufo. Behind the computer, our executive producer, Brian Ewing. Statistician of the moment is Chris Gano. We have Roy Kaczewski Jr. and John Zekas helping with the cameras. Roy's also helping collect scores. Steve Korick is now here to help. So
It's been great. The lull between games today has been just very minimal. The flow has been very, very good.
well, we've a bit of a faster pace than we're used to with only 3 bowlers on each pair of lanes. So
Yep.
And as we see under the Open Division leaderboard, the 3 bowlers that we're concentrating on, Bernie Hipkins, John Blaze, Eric Pellet, all within 29 pins of each other. But only Bernie is averaging 150, and it's exactly what he's averaging, 150 on the nose. All 3 need to improve on those averages over these last 2 games if they want to contend for the championship.
So John Blaze putting a marker down there.
Yeah, John starts in the right direction with a strike in the first. We'll catch a replay of him on lane 5. No doubt.
There was a little bit of a frustration in his body language there. Like, that's where I want to throw it.
Right, that's the ball. Bernie did start with a 10 box. So John with the early lead in game 11.
So you figure these guys, knowing that, well, whether they know it or not, 1,800 is a bare minimum. I mean, they all have to go big
Right.
in the last 2 games to
Yeah,
get above that.
1800 is just the easy math. You know, if you
Right,
average
right.
150, you're going to be at 1800. So
You got to go probably 30 pins beyond that minimum.
At the very least. And my personal opinion, as we watch a replay of Bernie with a strike in the second, the pins seem to be falling better. I think we should be expecting higher scores than what we've seen the last few years here.
Yeah, I really thought there's been a few tournaments here that have been run, a doubles tournament and then a Connecticut tournament, that the scores were extremely high. I've talked to Kyle Shaw regarding the number of 200 games that have been bowled in leagues here this year has been really amazing. There's been quite a few.
Yeah.
So I was thinking it's perhaps first time in a while that we might see a 1900. It's been 10 years. Obviously this shift does not look like it's going to get there, but as we know, next weekend there are 3 shifts and 90 bowlers.
Right.
So
At least
90 bowlers. So you're definitely talking about the possibility of someone going big.
Right. And historically, I believe the winners, usually the winning score comes from that second weekend.
Very rare do we see someone hang on from weekend one. It's
Right.
I don't know. Can't really explain why that is, but the quality of bowler comes in on the second weekend. Maybe higher averages. Maybe the fact that they're all high average bowlers bowling at the same time. I don't know. They feed off each other.
True. Yeah, I think it's all of that. Some of those bowlers are just wanting to see what the score is that they have to beat after
Right.
the first weekend, so they wait until the second weekend.
And you just mentioned knowing what the score is that you have to beat
Right.
sometimes can be an advantage.
It's like Kyle Shaw is balancing himself in front of us doing
One of
some
our
duck work.
tournament contenders is precariously perched.
Yeah, don't hurt yourself, Kyle. You got a bowl next weekend.
So here's a. So Bernie cleaning up there with a 10 box, I believe. Johnny Blaze looking to throw a triple. There's a replay of Eric Pellet, who's now in his last two games of his 12-game tournament.
Yeah.
Left himself a nasty little mess there.
And
went
not the best
nah, that wasn't
effort there on the second ball. Did
that
clean it
wasn't
up for
a great
10, though,
attempt.
as we'll see right here.
So now's the time to start thinking you're in game 11. Somebody can start stringing them. Put
Right.
up a big one.
It's go time.
I don't think there's any room, any room for any more missed singles or two loads or
Right.
7 boxes. Those all got to be off the deck now. Next time Blaze steps on the lane, he will be on a double though. Was that ball in the first the one that gets him going, Jim? What do you think?
Possibly.
It's the one that
know,
turns the tide. He had a
maybe
rough 10th game.
if he figured out something in his mechanics to get that ball consistently in the pocket, you could see him put up a big score.
Definitely a little.
He's got a head start with a double.
Definitely got a little zip in his step.
Heavy.
Got away with it.
Yes, he did. So he's got 28 in the first and an opportunity for a spare in the third. Here's a
See
replay.
You see his follow through here. You can see him kind of sidestep to the left a little
Really
bit. Like,
cranks, get that ball overhead and cranks through it.
He had a very, very solid. He made that one. Now he picked 4 of those last game. So that's a big, big box for him right there to come off of that and put those 2 pins together.
It looked like for a split second, he might
thought
push through the
I thought he had
3-pin.
gone through it, yeah.
And I'm sure he was thinking that too for a
As you see
flash.
on the replay right here. Watch the ball.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, got it. Of course, his
He'll
ball
take
does
it.
tend to move that way. So.
Right. Eric Pellet did come back with a spare in the second, dropped 9 and made it.
Hipkins, another tough break on that lane. Left to 5-7. And
So
tough shot
Bernie
for
with
him there.
another slow start to his game with only 1 mark out of his first 4 frames. It's hard to get a big game going when you don't have much to start the first half. On the other hand, John Blaze double spare. And here's a replay of Eric's spare conversion in the second frame. Solid form. Him and Bernie have a lot in common. They both have that 3-step approach, very basic delivery, not a lot of movement, very simple, easily repeatable. I've said that many times about both of them, but
which is a direct contrast to Johnny Blaze, whose ball's up in the air,
Right.
coming down. He's
whirling dervish. Really
maybe
cranks
that's where,
that.
maybe that's where the squirrel comes from. He's like a
Could be.
squirrely.
See, I think it's his hyperness. He's very. If you ever talk to John, or even just watch him while he bowls, he's very. I don't know, hyper's the right word, or high
Yeah,
energy,
yeah.
whatever the right description is. That might be where squirrel
Yeah,
comes
maybe.
from. Here's Chuck.
I know he was
Cook.
all excited earlier that somebody gave him a book on candlepin bowling with, I believe, Stacia Zernicke and Tom. I'm not a loss for his name. Ulster.
Yes,
Two of the most famous candlepin bowlers in history. It's a book called Lunch. He's all excited to read it.
I think we might be able to get to talk to him about that later on today.
So, John with I think a 6 load or a 7 load. I'm not. Can't tell if there's one behind there or not. No,
Oh,
he converted
converted
it,
it.
whatever it was.
Was that a 6 or 7 load for Blaze?
So it was only 7 pins, which makes sense because it went down pretty quickly.
Right.
If there was another pin there, it might not have been so friendly, but very big make for Johnny in that 4th box.
75 plus after 4. He's up 28 plus
He's
on
actually
Bernie.
tied Bernie now at this point with a load. And Bernie just, you can see it in his body language after the ball. He just deflated. Another one through the middle.
Not the time to struggle. But as we've seen after those first 2 great games from Bernie today, it's been a struggle for him.
Yeah, he's had, well, you expected him to have a little bit of a dip, but this has been a real battle for him for the last 4 or 5 games.
It does clean it up for 10.
I mean, it seems like 4 or 5. It's only been 3.
Right. 2.5.
Sure, it seems like more to him right now. The way it's going, can't catch a break.
So Rafael Burgos
You see
on
Pellet,
lane 15.
Eric Pellet coming back up here
Finishing
now.
up.
and I think he's on a load. And
Eric.
he throws the hands up for that. As you can see, the 5 and the 10.
He'd also spared in the 3rd frame, so he started 10 box, spare. He's got 47 in the 3rd.
He needs a.
Yeah.
He tried to.
You can see his reaction there. He knew he got the ball on the wrong side of the 5 pin if he wanted to try and make it, but cleans up for 10.
So now we're going to have Johnny Blaze step up onto lane 5 here. He is attempting to put a big game together. It's off to a great start.
Strike, spare.
It's one of those deals in this tournament where he finishes on this lane. So he's got back-to-back games on this pair. So if he can keep piling them up, build up that confidence. Seemed like another light hit.
Yeah, but gets the pins to mix for him. Looks like he has just the 4-7.
Yeah, he caught a break, I think.
Ouch.
It's right back to where he was last game.
Unfortunate, unlucky there. Hits the right pin, but hits it flush and pushes it past the 7.
Well, he's got to shake that off and just keep moving forward. He's plus 43 and through 5, so he's theoretically at a 186 pace, which
Right.
is more than enough.
And as of this moment, he is ahead of Bernie. So
He
and
does.
Eric.
He has surpassed Bernie by 8 pins. Live score. Hipkins has got to be thinking this has got to turn around. And the result of that ball from Bernie was not anything different than he's been seeing for the last 2 or 3 games. Right? Just a tad heavy and ripped the middle. Nice attempt by Hipkins to convert that spare, but again, no luck.
Does get 10, though. As you get further and further into your tournament, every pin becomes more and more important because you have fewer and fewer opportunities to make up for anything you leave on the deck.
You see on lane 15 now, Eric Pellet looking to start things back up after that last box with the 5-10.
He went light last frame and
really
goes heavy
heavy.
this time around. Rips the middle for 5.
You see if Pellet had a chance to convert this. He hit the object, but not quite on the outside enough.
Shaking his head in frustration. And gets 10.
$10.
Yep.
$10 it is.
So Eric, 67 through his first 5. So he's also trailing both John and Bernie.
Starting to see a few more of these rips through the middle and lighter hits, resulting in splits that we haven't really been seeing earlier in the day.
All right, see if John can recover from that missed spare.
Way off the side there, and again, kind of got away with it.
Yeah. Well, something to shoot at. It's one of those leaves of the middle pins where you kind of really have to hit the head pin heavy
Gotta
here
go
and
heavy
hope to get
hard,
the carry.
yeah. Or hit it so light that it bounces around enough to catch
Right.
it. I think John preferred to hit this coming in heavy on the middle.
Just like that.
Except
But
there was an
wow.
extra pin back there.
Wow. I'm sure he thought he had a good chance of making it halfway down the lane, and still has the 8-9 to getting harassed by Todd Turcotte right now off camera.
He's like a whack-a-mole. And Eric
off the side
again
for 6.
Yes. So
Eric's has lost the pocket. He's gone light, heavy, and missed it altogether his last 3 first balls. Wow, he gave it a great effort there, but head pin bounces off the wall and doesn't take out the 7. So another open frame for Eric. He's got
There's
77
Bernie.
after 6.
all right, Bernie's back on a pocket hit. He's got that 5-pin staring at him now. His first shot he's had really a makeable spare in the last 4 boxes.
Right, something to shoot at. And he
Right,
had missed
big
that
sigh
2 out
of
of his
relief.
Yeah, sigh of relief. He had missed that 2 out of his last 3 attempts and covered it solidly this time. Here's a look at his first ball. Definitely a form that you would love to emulate, make your own. And we're back to Eric Pellet here. Rafael Burgos wearing the Watch and Learn shirt. Eric is in the Woodlawn Duckpin Bowler Appreciation Picnic shirt. Shout out to Woodlawn Lanes. Eric started to sub on a semi-permanent basis down at Woodlawn, and
You get invited to
New
the
Haven
picnic.
area.
That's a big time picnic.
I love picnics.
Well,
Another
he's-
miss.
Right now, he's thinking, this isn't really a picnic right now. He's
No.
been throwing the ball the last few frames. It's been off the side, through the middle. And he's not. Yeah, he's very frustrating right now.
Out of sync.
But, you
Wow.
know, all of these bowlers are within a 200 game of making a splash, so none of them are out of it.
Well, that's a negative frame right there. Not only did he not get a mark, but he left 4 pins up on the deck. It's almost like a reverse. It's like a
Yeah, you
a
lost a
reverse
mark.
fill. Yeah.
And
Gave
off
back
on-
half a fill.
over on lane 5, Blaze off the side. So all 3 of our top bowlers right now are starting to show signs of maybe a little fatigue, getting a little different breaks. Not the same first ball results we've been seeing most of the day. And we've also, as you just noted, we're starting to see more pins left on the deck.
Uncle John did get 10 out of his, though. So Bernie, among the 3 that we're focusing on, only Bernie is the one with working on a mark. He's got a spare in the 7th. It only has 77 in the 7th. So big spot here for Bernie, wanting to get himself into contention for the tournament. And he's off the side for 5. So not quite the 2 fill that you might cringe having if you hitting the 2-pin flush, but gets 5. Somewhat makeable conversion opportunity here. Really needs this, though, to make something out of this game and have some momentum going into his last game of the tournament.
Oh, my goodness. That
Needs
is a
sleeper pin. The
that is a
sleeper
very
pin.
difficult spare to make.
Yes. You'd really want to make it ball hitting the 1 and the 3, but sometimes you make it on the outside, so to speak. He did not.
Pellet again. Wow.
Eric finding himself farther and farther away off the head pin. That's a man down.
Totally out of sync on
Man
that.
down, just the 4 pin. Finally, it's the head pin. Leaves 2. So he's in struggle mode.
He's only plus 12 or 13 on his box through the 8th, so he is absolutely in dire need of some strikes.
And he's going to have to wait for that pin to be set back up. So Eric's only going to have 91, 92, or 93. He's in the low 90s after 8. So if he marks out, that'll get him to just about 130. So he'd love to have a double or more, as would John or Bernie. So we've got Chuck Cook finishing up here his frame. Chuck covers for a 10 box.
So here we go. Johnny Blaze is plus 42. And 3 boxes to go in his 11th game of the tournament. And wow, can opener.
Thank you. Breaks up the 5-7.
I'd say that
big
squirrel found a
strike.
nut on that one.
That
eh?
is
that was a nice break he got.
absolutely. What a great what a great time for him to catch a lucky break.
There. It was a good ball.
Yeah,
but
it was
I
a good
mean,
ball, but it was light going
It
away.
was light going away, and he looks like the 5-7, but simultaneously knocked down.
Bernie.
Bernie gets the same return favor. 5-pin was the Defiant, but it did fall.
But even with that, John is 30 pins up on Bernie.
Which would put him, in theory, 2 pins ahead going into the last game, but still both would be trailing Zekis's pace.
Well, depending on how big of a finish John has here.
That's also true.
I mean, he is.
If he throws another strike here, it's all bets are off.
You know, not to put the jinx on him, but
Nope.
strike out for 200, 202.
Yep.
4 more strikes.
Can be. It's certainly within his range of capability. That's for sure. Any of these guys can do that.
Here's
I
Eric.
think Pellet right
Must
now
mark.
just wants to throw a ball in the pocket. Just get it to the pocket. And look what happens.
And-
Good things happen when you hit the pocket.
Yeah,
Look
you
at
back
that.
these guys into a corner. You back baby into a corner. And they come out. It's fight or flight, and they're fighting.
So we've seen our leaders now all throw strikes in their last ball.
Eric, the other two went light. Eric goes heavy. Gets the 3 and 6 to fall last. So all 3 of our leaders are working on strikes. John Blaze with a huge opportunity here for a big game. He can strike out for 202. That would put him at the top of the leaderboard for this shift and also put him in contention for a winning score. You know, we talk about those low to mid 1800 scores. That would really put him one big step closer. Let's see what happens.
I think you like that one.
Wow.
That is right on target.
Right on time as well. Big double.
Ladies and gentlemen, we may have a new leader in the clubhouse. We'll see. We have one box. One box will determine that going into the last game.
So after going light away from the pocket, he goes heavy into the pocket. And there was less of a weight there for all 10 to fall. Big double. Now
Hipkins
Bernie.
now, yeah, looking to answer.
That's right in Bernie's face, too. So now Bernie definitely wants to answer.
And
A little flat.
yeah, that didn't
Into
have
the
the same
pocket.
pop.
Right.
Still take the break though. Converts these. 112. He's still another game. He's struggling to get to 130.
Right. He's got it.
So he needs an 8 or better to get to 130, which it's a nice game, but it's not
Yeah,
not what he was
well-
not what he was banking on.
Back to Eric here. Would love to have a double of his own.
Wow, that's a bomb.
Wow.
That was the best ball he's thrown
I think
today.
all 9 went into the pit except for the head pin, and the head pin flew around like a duck. Quack, quack.
Yep.
Get a replay of it.
Just
Watch
watch how
this-
fast.
yeah.
Watch how fast they're down. Boom.
That's the head pin right
yeah,
there.
The 7 pin was the last standing, but it wasn't there for long.
Yeah. So Eric could strike out for 152. Would love to have that.
It's Bernie trying to load his, like I said, 8, 9, 10 here to get to 30. And there's 10 for 32.
Mhm.
Again, you know, he salvaged a 132 game. Not I hate to say it, but it's not enough, but it doesn't put him in a position where he's out of it. He's still now in a position where a 200 game or something close to a 200 game puts him in the 1800s.
Right.
What he couldn't afford was a 110 or a 115. He avoided that.
Oh.
Pellet, unfortunately on a double, he rips for 2.
I feel your pain. That's nothing worse than going outside for 2 on a
2-4,
double and then only 2
2-4.
more. I think you rushed that last ball there. Only 2 more.
It's a
unfortunate finish for Eric for 128, his
Yeah, that's-
11th game, and that's going to drop him off the pace quite a bit.
so the ball of the tournament right now for Johnny Blaze coming up. This puts him in it's a huge position to be able to throw that triple before the 9th and 10th.
Yeah,
Make it
and-
count a couple times.
Right, and 200 games still on the table here for him. Strike out for 202. But he's got to get the first one first.
Yeah.
But more importantly, whether or not he gets 200, these are a huge amount of pins he's making up on
The field.
the field. And just on that moving target of what's the winning score going to be.
Right.
He could very well be the target after this game, depending
Well,
on his 12th
at this
game.
point, with Zekis's 151.2 average, you need to get to 1815 to get by that.
Right.
So this puts Johnny in a better position to get to that. But I'm sure he's looking.
right.
I'm sure he'd rather get to 1830, 40 or higher.
10th frame. Here we go.
Big ball for Blaze. Catches another break. Big break. Big break.
So 200's off the table. That's out of reach, but still, was it 180s, I believe?
41, 61, 81. Yes.
Yeah, he can make this in the strike for 181.
And he converts it. So that's a big showing for the second half of this game. After having a missed single. Oh, no, I'm sorry. He did not single. He picked off that 4-7.
Right.
But otherwise, he's got an all-mark game.
Now, he had 3 opens in the middle there.
I'm looking at the wrong guy. My
Yeah.
bad.
It's okay. But even still, you strike away from 181.
He'd love to get to that 180 number.
Looks like
Or he'll take a 170.
Oh, he gets
did
there.
get it.
Right on the nose. Gets a couple extra bonus pins to
So
fall.
180 for Johnny Blaze. That puts him at 1652, I believe.
I'm calculating it. Well, he's cracked 150.
1652, yep. So he's still not quite ahead of the pace of Zekas, but in a better position to get there now.
And I just heard Eric Pellet off camera saying, "Oh, I need 201 for 1800," and he started with a strike. His game 12. So John Blaze is going to be the center of attention here. Going to the last
Interesting-
game of this block. this
Interesting
shift.
development at the C division level. We've got Rick Gano and I believe Michelle Haller exactly tied after 10 games. So
Yep.
be interesting to see their last two come through.
And they're averaging 131. And the C division, I believe you have to be, 125
I believe
or less?
it's on
average?
the flyer. Let's see. C division is a. Let's see. Where is that?
B division is 132 and under.
Yeah, I don't see the C
I
division
think it's
listed on.
125.
Yeah, we can find out. There's also
Really,
that
Rick
over
Gano is that
55
low?
award. He had a rough year last year, I heard.
guess. We'll get clarification on that.
We'll talk to Kyle or Colin and find out what the breakdown is, or Marianne. Marianne could give
Our
us
tournament director.
a better idea.
All right, so
We are awaiting the start of the final game of the tournament for our top two competitors in this shift.
shift 1, game 12 of shift 1. There's Bernie. Bernie Hipkins starts off with a 9 drop. And as you mentioned before, For your 11th and 12th games, you bowl on the same pair. So Bernie is still on 5 and 6 along with John Blaze. I'm sure John is very happy to be on 5 and 6 to stay on the pair where he just shot 180.
I would love it.
He is locked in. He can stay locked in. Bernie starts with a spare in the first. He's made the 5-pin back-to-back times after missing it 2 out of the last 3 before that. So Chuck Cook with the Orioles colored golf shirt on. Drop 9. Also participates on the Men's Pro Tour, as does John Blaze, Bernie Hipkins, Eric Pellet, and a number of other bowlers you'll see over the course of our coverage. He covers it up for a spare. And now here is John Blaze, first frame of Game 12. Looking to maintain that hot streak. He had 180 in Game 11 to get himself over a 150 average for the tournament. And last game for John starts here.
Got away with it.
A little over anxious or a little over excited on his first ball, but gets a break off the side for 8.
Is that Butch Richardson?
And he does not cover. Punches just the 2-pin, leaving the head pin. All right, so John starts his last game with the 10 box, but a missed opportunity there. And now Bernie with the spare in the first. Looking up in the standings at John. Has an opportunity to gain some ground here. Maryland's Bernie Hipkins. Ouch. Yeah, that's a rip. Looks like maybe just 3 on his spare. Momentum killer. Hard to get a good game going when you're ripping. Or as they say in Canada, H, head pin. Wow, gave it a good effort. Everything but the 7-pin. Unlucky that he left the 7-pin there, as he got the 2-pin to kick over and take out everything on the right side of the lane. And he does get the max out of that 10 box. But just a 3 fill on his spare, 23 in the third. And we're back to Chuck Cook here. Well, looks like we got a glimpse of Pat Gallo on the left side of your screen there, the bearded one. Chuck fills the spare with a strike, so he's off to a good start in his 12th game. And here's John. Open in the first. See if we can find his way back on the head pin here. Again, John Blaze is a not converted, but he's also started as a candlepin bowler, now bowls both candlepin and duckpin.
Sorry, guys, I had a little visit there from a blast from the past, an old former baseball teammate of mine from going way back.
Yeah, unfortunately, he didn't miss much. Bernie ripped the middle, and John missed a spare.
Well,
And this looks to be a bit of an unlucky break for John. He had left a 4-horseman left. Looks like he was going to make it. But he clipped off the 7-pin. He does have some spinning wood. Doesn't look like it's going to make its way over there. So, as you said before, we're at the right side of the lane. Because John's
ball's going in.
leans that way or spins that way.
The left side
Works to his
a little
advantage.
trickier.
Might have worked to his disadvantage here on the left side. And he starts with 2 10 boxes, 20 in the second. Off camera, Eric Pellet has started spare, open, spare, strike. So he's got 77 plus in the fifth. So he's definitely on the outside looking in, but still playing, so to speak. Still has 200 as a possibility, which is what he said he needed, a 201 to get to 1800. Yeah, Eric does have 1599 after 11, so he still has a shot mathematically, but needs some strikes. Wow. Great ball by Bernie.
Man, oh man. It's almost like, how does that? Well, we're going to find out right here. You got to catch a replay of this. How does this miss? Everything's perfect. Right off.
Yeah, just
one over the top and one off to the left.
5-pin didn't take out the 9. But he does
covers that.
Claps for himself.
So
a little positive motivation.
Hipkins finds himself in a different position now. He's average of 3 pins, almost 3 full pins behind Zekis's 151. This is game 12, so he's got to make up 30 more than 50 if you think about it. He's got to go 80 something to get there.
And again, if you're thinking about winning the tournament, if he has a 200 his last game, that's 1832.
Now you're in the ballpark.
But still, that wouldn't have won
in the last
3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Right.
So,
and as we have been alluding to, I really do think the scores this year are going to be higher. I believe that from what I've been watching.
Just the eye test, just watching the pins mix and fall.
Good balls have resulted in good balls have been good results. So John Blaze is coming off that 180 game, a little lull, but really, if you think about it, he had 3 opens last game, as you mentioned. So still right on pace here if he can just start throwing some marks.
Eric Pellet did open in his 6th frame, so he has 96 in the 6th. So 200 opportunity for 200 is fading fast. He needs 4 in a row, 5 in a row to get there. 4 in a row somewhere.
Here's Johnny Blaze looking for one of those monster balls.
That's what that was.
Hey, that's a monster ball.
Crush for 10. Shows Bernie how to trip the 9-pin.
What if these guys would give me a couple bucks here and there just to make things like, hey, Johnny needs a strike. There it is. See, that time the pin tried to get up over the top, but too much interference. Too many fighters on the deck.
Yeah, too many bullets to dodge. One of them got him. So Bernie working on a spare in the 3rd, 34 plus.
Bernie saying, okay, I'll take it.
Wow, for a second there he
6
had the
went to 9.
He had the 3, 4, 6, 7.
Yes.
Now it's just the 6. Big break. Big break here.
Very thankful for that break. Even though he blocked us from seeing what actually happened, 3 of the 4 pins that were standing fell down.
On game 12 of the Eastern, you need all the breaks you can get.
Yeah, you need them, especially when you're down to your last 6 boxes, 7 boxes. Wow. And
Makes it interesting, but makes it nonetheless.
he didn't walk away from that one.
No.
He wanted to actually see that one.
All right, replay of
Skips
Bernie
off. He skips off the lane. Happy.
jogging off. Chuck Cook with just the head pin remaining. If I remember correctly, I believe his team went deep last weekend at the adult challenge matches down in Maryland. I believe his team qualified. I don't think they won. Well, he converts the head pin.
Are you talking about Mark? Who you talking about?
Chuck Cook.
Oh yeah, they did well. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these bowlers are coming off of bowling a lot of games last weekend down in Maryland for the adult challenge matches. Everyone bowled at least 12 games, and if you qualified, you bowled more. Coming back here and bowling 12 games every next weekend, and then you probably had leagues in between. So this is a stretch of a lot of bowling for a lot of these participants.
His Blaze now loading his strike. He'd love to see another double. Again, you got a late action to take out the 5 pin. Let's see this replay. Ball's right there. It just came off the head pin just a tad.
Light going away. Looking
got
at
the 5 and the
yeah,
4
4,
and the
5,
5.
7, but no. Deadwood helps him.
Yeah, we talked about that shot for him before.
Right.
He made the adjustment that time.
They had missed it in the gutter side last time and covered it this time.
See the way he doesn't get up as high on this as he, just a little lower. His first ball, he gets up way over his head. That spare ball, he kind of holds
Maybe
it
bends
right
his
behind his
elbow
ear.
a bit more. Yeah. We'll have to compare.
Bernie slides by. That's another break for Bernie.
Fortunate. Really needs strikes there. Really needs to give himself the opportunity for strikes. Get on the pocket. Wow. There was a question in the booth here whether that was a 6 or 7 fill for Bernie. Well, we know for sure it was 6 because it looks like he had made it, but the sleeper pin 9 still there. Unlucky.
So halfway through this game for Hipkins, plus 20. That's
It's not going to cut it.
Not going to get it.
Yeah, it needed to be plus 50, right, to get on pace for 200.
He's got to at least plus 40 something. All right. Blaze looking to load another. So you have another one of those monster balls in him? What do you think?
I think we're going to see a bomb ball. Wow. Wound a little too tightly there. Wow, he just...
Yeah, but the 8-10, my lord.
8, 9, 10 almost. He really... His ball is wound tightly into the 1-2 heavy.
He liked it, too.
Yeah. Wow.
No, if anybody can slide it over or bounce it around, take my chances with him.
Wow, you did see it hop out of the pit, but still has the 10 here. All right, he covers it up. So 68 halfway through for John Blaze,
And
70
again,
halfway through
he's
for Bernie. And Eric Pellet as 132 plus in the ninth. So he'll finish with a decent game, but that 11th game really dropped him off the pace at 128. And Bernie with a rip. When he needs strikes, he rips instead.
Oh,
Wow.
beautiful
I
shot.
almost was about to say he really needs to convert this. And before I can get the words out of my mouth, he converts this. We're going to get a look, a good look
first ball.
again at both of his balls here in frame 6.
That's as clean a rip as you can get right there.
Yeah, flush through the head pin.
And as clean as the rip was, the make was even prettier.
It's a shot that the elite bowlers make more often than others, and that's the textbook way to cover it. Nothing off the wall, just a clean conversion. Definitely, Bernie is definitely an elite duckpin bowler. He was inducted a couple years ago into the Men's Pro Tour Hall of Fame. Multiple Pro Tour victories. And Chuck converts his spare leave. He's got a number of marks on camera.
So right now, doing a little quick math, Johnny Blaze is in need of a 163. That's to surpass the current leading average of John Zekas. Now, granted, John's got to bowl 6 more games, but I think it's really important that if Blaze is going to have any aspirations at all of winning this thing, he's got to get ahead of that average. So he needs a big finish.
This time he's light.
Wow, man.
Last frame heavy for the 8-10. This time light for the 7-8. Duckpins is unforgiving sometimes. Yeah. Light gets some deadwood to mix, but 7-8. Let's see if he gives it a go here. How is he going to shoot at it? Oh, he tried to make it clean. Two good efforts on these last two splits he's had, but 0 for 2. Here's a replay of that second ball here where he gave it a good effort. Just behind the 7. I'm sure we would have heard him if he converted that one, but back to Bernie here, working on a spare in the 6th.
Nice ball.
Yes, 9 in the pit.
Quick 9 right there. Unfortunately, he needs more than 9.
Right, strikes are really the necessity, but and covers it up. He's still playing. Here's a good look at Bernie's first ball here. Crosses over into the 1-2, heavy.
Real
Just
heavy.
missed carrying this 10 pin off the wall. To find out what Eric Pellet finished his 12th game with. Chuck, good ball, leaves a 5. And once again, Eric Pellet blocking the view. All right, he's out of the way now. Sure, he came over to take a peek at what John and Bernie have and where that puts him, but he'll be trailing, sure to be trailing both of them after their 12 games are finished. Chuck with another spare. And now John with only 18 pins over his frame going into the 7th. Wayne Matheson just pointed out he's only 5 pins behind Eric Pellet after 11 frames, so we'll have to find out what Wayne had his last game. All
John
of these
Blaze
scores will be updated.
Dire
very soon.
need of a big ball here.
So Eric had 150 his last game.
So give him 1749. Wow.
Yeah, not even close, unfortunately.
Might have been the first ball I've seen him throw today where it got a little tight.
Yeah, and again, these spots are more and more magnified as you get to the end of your tournament. And I'm sure.
So right now, I mean, Hipkins essentially needs a strike to have it. I mean, if he wants to get to 18-15, strikes are almost a must. He brought one halfway back the alley, but not where it needed to go.
Really could have had a double with each of these first 2 balls, his last 2 first ball. That one was a little heavy. I take it back. We really got that deadwood to fly up the lane a bit. Kyle Shaw to clear it out before he shoots a single pin. Kyle Shaw, as we've seen some of these candlepin bowlers start to bowl duckpin, Kyle's now bowling candlepin. I believe he's in elite candlepin league.
Yeah, he's won some big tournaments as well. Yeah, he's king of the hill tournaments.
King of the palace. Right?
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. And he does convert.
I heard some people talking in one of my leagues in Rhode Island. A couple of guys are bowling this weekend and next weekend. I know they're bowling both weekends.
Oh, of a tournament?
Yeah.
Out in Rhode Island?
They're bowling. No, they're bowling. They're bowling.
Oh, they're going to re-enter.
They're already re-entered.
Oh, wow.
They're signed up for two shifts.
Oh, wow.
I believe Charlie Craw and Mark Parker.
Right, were the first to re-enter in the Eastern. And a couple thousand miles up the road in Saskatchewan, I know there are at least Walt Brooks and maybe a couple of others are bowling in a 5-pin tournament.
Oh, is that this weekend?
The Regina Classic.
Those are huge.
That is one of their biggest tournaments of the year. Bowlers come from...
I hear Canadians like to bet.
Yeah, they have a lot of side pots. And here's John Blaze again, where he needs to fill these frames with marks, spares or strikes, preferably strikes, and off the head pin for 5, I believe.
And
whatever it was he left, I don't think he converted it. So
he had left.
We're looking at another open frame for John. So John just with 97 in the 8th, Bernie 118 plus in the 8th.
Yeah, not the finish John was
So they may flip-flop
hoping for.
positions here, right? They're exactly tied right now.
They're exactly tied, and actually, Hipkins is one ahead with a load.
Okay.
And make that
Wow.
10 ahead.
Had 2 pins fly over. Neither could knock out the 10. Another 9 drop for Bernie. So Bernie's making his case to be first weekend leader, but needs to convert this first.
Ooh.
Caught a piece.
I think he touched it on the other side.
I was watching his reaction because we couldn't see the pin, the ball.
Well, the most he can get to is 77, which is not enough to get to the 151.2.
But it would get him over 1,800.
It would put him over 1,800, yes.
Barely.
Well, and that would be 68 plus 9. He'd be at 1809 if he were to triple out in the 10th.
So, as far as his opportunity of winning the tournament,
That hasn't happened.
1809.
Gotta
I'm
go.
not seeing an 1809.
I don't think that's ever happened. Pretty sure that's
1815 from Joey Sears back in 2007 is the lowest that I see.
Yep. And it's interesting that happened in 2007 because that's sandwiched around that are the 2 years prior that someone's gone over 1900.
It looks like we have to go all the way back to 1975. Gene Fearlett at a 1794 is his winning score.
1975?
Yes.
Wow. 44 years.
And Buddy Kaiser the year before that had 1765. Robert Burchard the year before that in 73 at 1770. So you have to go that far back
Back to the 70s.
for that to be a winning score, that low of a score to be a winning score.
We also got those couple of years where there was someone over 2,000.
Jeff Ferrand, 2010 and 1984.
And then there was I believe a 2066
World record.
Yeah.
Scott Wolgamuth in 1993 had 2,066.
That's crazy.
Dave Sissel, 2008 in 1989. So there
See Johnny
was
Blaze
a stretch
just
there where you
missed
needed
another
2,000,
single.
let alone
Imagine that.
1,800, 1,900.
It's frozen.
So another opportunity slips through John Blaze's fingers. He's missed a single pin. So a disappointing finish to his tournament after such a huge 11th game, a 180. And started this last game open, strike, spare, but hasn't been able to do anything since then. Now here's Bernie in the 9th.
All right, so there goes the 1,800 possibility.
Bernie's in the 10th frame here. So Bernie can max out for 165, which would put him at 1797. Makes this with a strike. And he catches it. I also believe there's an incentive for the first weekend leader.
I believe there's an extra
So-
prize for that as well.
Little extra motivation to get over top of the
Yeah.
chart for the first weekend.
I did overhear Kyle say there was, I believe, 65 bowlers this weekend and over 100 next weekend.
Wow. Amazing. And he does it.
So that's a 1797, which is pretty much 1796. Isn't that a strike? Hang on. I believe that was a strike. That's a 10 load.
Yeah, we're going to get clarification on Bernie's score. We heard it might be once. Could be either 164 or 165. Oh,
So it must have been a 7. No, how can that be? Huh.
it must have been an 8 drop somewhere
We
in
must
there for
have
Bernie.
we must have had a pin missing along the way.
But Bernie's
So we are going to have a chance to talk to a couple of our early finishers. The first shift of the 89th Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Duckpin Classic is just about finishing up. We do have a couple of bowlers who approach the 1800 number, but as of the end of the first shift of this tournament, there will not be anyone above 1800. We are at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. And we are watching John Blaze finish up his final box of the 12th game of his tournament. As you can see from the score below, a very, nothing, you can't say anything, but a very disappointing game for John. A couple of missed opportunities spare-wise. Missed a couple of singles. And adds another one to that. So 3 singles in the last game for John Blaze. It's just not going to cut it. So that's going to give him a 1769. So at this point, at the end of the first shift, the average leader is still a bowler who's going to be coming up in the next shift. John Zekas Jr., he's going to be bowling, starting off with a higher average, at least, through 6 games than our bowlers that have completed the 12 games are currently at. A similar situation has occurred in both the B and C divisions, as our 12-game totals for average have slipped below the average leaders through 6 games. So this tournament is a 12-game tournament, and it's very important that you bowl well in all 12 games in both shifts. Where do I send it? So we're going to give our bowlers a chance to sign their score sheets. They're finalizing their totals. My partner Jim Kaufman is going to be talking with both Bernie Hipkins and Johnny Blaze. This time I'm going to turn it over to Jim Kaufman, who has our current in the clubhouse leader, Mr. Bernie Hipkins.
Okay, here with Bernie Hipkins. Finished strong, 929 for your second block, 1790. Your morning here.
The morning was to get up in time to take a shower because we were out late last night was a challenge, but to come out with 177, 179, it was so good to come out and put yourself in a good position the last 4 games. I'm impressed with myself. It's not rare you impress yourself in this game, but to come out to finish the game with 5 spares in a row, to get to this point, I'm impressed with myself. I have a perceived struggle. I struggled shooting the 5-pin this weekend, and to do it spare-wise instead of throwing a bunch of strikes, I'm very proud of that. So
You should be proud of yourself. Just shy of 1,800, just shy of that 150 average, but you did throw a lot of good first balls where you weren't getting the strikes, but like you said, finished with 5 spares in a row to get you up to the top of the leaderboard for the time being. I know you've come here quite a bit over the years. Good to see you here again. We'll see what happens with that score, but again, good bowling, 1929, 1796.
thank you. Thank you. I'll definitely take it every time. It's not 1,800. I wish I could have put 1,800 up here for the guys to look at coming into next shift and next weekend. But I'm glad to put a number up there and let a better bowler win, you know.
All right, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jim.
Good seeing you.
So Jim's finishing up his interview right now with Bernie. We are waiting John Blaze, who Jim's going to have a few words from Johnny. He had to tally his score sheets and sign his score sheets. So he's moving up onto the lane, as you can see right now. So you can see your scoreboard there. The final totals are coming in. We're not all complete. We still have a couple of bowlers who have not yet finished up their final game. But the most important numbers up there are 1796 and 1769 at this point. Of course, John Zekis and Leo Montero, Tom Clausen are all about to bowl their second 6 games of this tournament. And you never know if one of them gets hot. You see them shoot up or move up the leaderboard. The 825 and 823 from Sal Nassisi and Chuck Subak, those are going to be mighty difficult to bring up into the 1800 range, but you're talking almost 1,000 needed for each of them to get into the 1800 range. So the B division right now, the leader in the clubhouse is Dave Wander at 1604. And in C division, Mike Smith at 1564. We're going to turn it back over to Jim Coppin right now, who has John Blaze lined up and ready to go.
All right, now I'm here with candle pinner / duck pinner John Blaze. Finished with 1769, so a little bit of a mirror image of your bowling mate Bernie Hipkins' score, but had a great 180 next to last game, and then unfortunately it fell off a little bit for you at the end. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I got a little bit of that runner's high early in that 11th game, and I felt pretty good, I think, in the first 4 boxes where I went, 2 10s and a spare strike or something. And green turned on a little. Once it turned on, it was tough getting it off. Missed those singles. Probably should have had at least a 140, but I can't complain. I really am not in that position a lot. I haven't been in either bowling career, so it was a learning experience to know how to filter out your thoughts in those last moments. I did it most of the tournament, and now I've learned what it's like to struggle to do that at the end. And couldn't ask for a better group of guys to bowl with. These guys, Chuck Cook and Bernie, they're not only great guys, they fought the whole time, especially Chuck. I think he went underrated the way he bowled the whole tournament because he coasted there at the end, and he was just barely missing the head pin the whole first set. So, had a blast.
Glad to hear it. Now, how many times have you bowled this Eastern?
I think it's 3. I skipped a year in the last 4 years. That's by far my highest score, but I've had an awesome time. And it's a classic tournament that is worthy of the respect that people give it. So,
Well, appreciate your time. Good bowling this weekend. We all were rooting for a little bit more for you that last game, but always next year, right?
yes, sir.
All right, well, thanks again. Back to you.
And there you have it. A good effort there today from Johnny Blaze. And Jim, thanks for bringing us that information. We are Duckpin TV. We had a great time today. Hope you did too, enjoying the first shift of the 89th annual Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Duckpin Classic. We'll be coming back at you with more from the second shift later on this afternoon. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and share as often as you can. Have a good day.